Today you join me in the middle of a massive punch-up. Oh, Christ. With a Mini Cooper S, GP Works or GP Works Cooper S or whatever you want to call it, whichever way round you want to call it. This car is the most unruly of vehicles that I have driven in quite some time, it has to be said. Right, so where do we start with this little car? Now, as a package, when you think about it, 300 horsepower or 302 horsepower, 330 foot-pounds of torque, all going through the front wheels. It's got a limited slip differential, which we'll get to in a minute, because you can feel that working an awful lot of the time. It's on hand coupe tyres that are relatively sticky, but not very good in this 3-degree temperature that we've got at the moment. But the way this car tramlines is completely and utterly alarming. It is one of the most unruly cars I've driven in a long time. And not in the way of like an overpowered BMW M3 or something like that, where it feels like you're gonna lose the rear end due to all of the power that the car has going through the rear wheels. This car feels like it's, you know, you don't know where the front end is particularly, because there's sort of fake feel in the front end. Oh my God. And it's so fast, it does 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds. So it's absolutely rapid, but it's rapid in, as you can see, a very compromised way. It's a little track car in reality. It's got no rear seats, the torsion beam in the back, that does nothing for rigidity whatsoever, but it sort of looks cool and that's about it. It's just, I just don't understand this car really, because it just can't put the power down through the front wheels at all. Every time you go round a corner, it goes round the corner slightly more differently. So you have to completely be like absolutely on it. It spins up the front wheels all the time. So the traction control light is flashing constantly. The rear end, it feels so stiff that the rear end, then you can really outbrake yourself. You put all the weight over the front of the car and then the rear end starts moving around. You feel the diff working just to keep the damn thing in a straight line. The ride, it's hard. It is hard. It's not uncomfortable to the level that you wouldn't buy the car. It's not outrageous, but it definitely is a track car, and there's no buttons to soften anything off. There are no modes in this car. This car is just get in it and fire it towards the horizon. The gearbox. Now, let's get on to the biggest bone of contention that I have with this car. The gearbox. It is an 8-speed automatic gearbox. Now, for a car that is driver focused, you would think that Mini would make the decision to put a manual gearbox in this car. You have no option for a manual gearbox. Now, they are only bringing 575 of these cars into this country, and like it or lump it, unfortunately, you've got an 8-speed automatic gearbox, which is totally and utterly the wrong gearbox for this vehicle. Entirely the wrong gearbox for this vehicle. Now, the only thing I would say about the gearbox is, and the fact that it is the wrong gearbox, but if this car did have a manual gearbox, it would be so dangerous to let go of the steering wheel to grab a gear. It really would, because you're constantly fighting the steering wheel to make you head in a straight line. Every time you go round a corner, it seems to, as I say, go round the corner slightly differently to the last time. Even if you went round one corner 100 times, it would still probably go round the corner in the, I don't know, in a different way each time. You might get oversteer, understeer, you know, lift off, oversteer. I don't know. It would tug at the wheel one way, tug at the wheel the other way. It's a very, very strange car. Now, one thing I would say is, I actually quite like this car. Now, the reason I quite like this car is it's difficult. It's not an easy car to drive. You can't just jump in it and go really fast. Like in that Audi S3 that I did last week, you can't just fire it towards the horizon willy-nilly, absolutely carefree, because this car, you would have an enormous accident. It does feel like you are continuously managing not having a huge crash in this Mini. That's literally what it feels like. Obviously, this car has no rear seats, as I say, so it's not particularly practical. It's got all the mod cons though that you'd expect. So it's got heated seats. The seats are really comfortable. They hug you really nicely low down, but they could do with a little bit more support up the top. They're nice and comfortable though, and they're great. The other touch points in this car, the paddles. Everyone should learn a lot about Mini paddles. Everyone could learn from these. They're really nice. They're sort of 3D printed metal paddles that feel really, really nice. And they're quite big, so they're easy to grab hold of when you need to inevitably pull another paddle to get another gear. As I say, this car does 0-60 5.2 seconds, and it will stroll on to 164 miles an hour. I mean, in a Mini. I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but it is an absolute hoot. I think it's a complete hooligan, but I quite like the fact that it's a complete hooligan. It's not sort of all the things that are really not very good about it, to me, make it quite lovable. But the gearbox is not good enough for this car. If this car had a nice little double clutch gearbox or something like that that was really snap sharp, that you could bang through gears and every time you grab one to go down a gear, it did as it was told, then this would be an absolute fucking jeez. What a bumpy bit of road. But do you see what I mean? I am not putting that on. That is what the car is doing. You are managing the car entirely the whole time. Oh God, it gets your heart rate going, I'll tell you that much for free. It's mental. It really is mental. And it feels so compromised. And it feels a little bit like everyone at BMW and Mini just went, right, wouldn't it be cool if a Mini GP had 300 horsepower? Wouldn't it be cool if it had loads of torque, 100 foot-pounds of torque more than a normal Cooper S? Wouldn't it be cool if it was covered in loads of random bits of carbon fibre that don't seem to do anything aerodynamically? You know, with a huge wing that looks like it's off a Formula One car. Wouldn't it be cool if we did that? And then they did it, and then went, there you go, general public, we've done it, and no one actually test drove it. That's what it feels like. And it feels like they had this automatic gearbox just sort of left on the shelf, so just boshed it in, which is odd. It really is odd. Now, because obviously they brought 575 only into this country, and it's a £35,000 car, that, yes, is a lot of money, but it's not an enormous amount of money for, you know, you think of what a McGann Trophy R, I know it's a better car, think of what that is. They're £75,000 with all the bells and whistles, and that's an enormous amount of money for a hot hatch. This car is, if you look at it in those terms, actually not a vast amount of money for a special. What do we think of the looks? It's a bit sort of Honda Civic Type R-y, isn't it? It's a bit sort of, look at me, I've got wings all over me and all this kind of thing. The carbon fibre front wings, rear wings, it's all, you know, they stick out about an inch. I mean, it's mental. The rear diffuser and the rear spoiler, they're massive. They look wicked, I think. I really like the look of this car. I think it looks purposeful, it looks childish, and it works for me. I'm 31 years old and I think it's wicked. But I think a lot of people, my father, for instance, he hates it, thinks it looks dreadful. But I don't think it's aimed at him. There are other things out there that offer a better overall package, but potentially are not as Larry fun. This is a very weird car, and if you go out and buy one, I think you'll, you know, just please be careful in it because they are so quick. And yeah, go and if you like the look of them, go have a look, go talk to someone at your local dealer about one and see what you think. But please do, I implore you to drive one before you decide it's a good idea to go and buy one, because it might not be for you. If you like compromised and you like harsh two-seater minis that feel like little touring cars, then yeah, this is going to be the car for you. If you don't like that, then this is not going to be the one. There are other things out there that are more suitable for you and your needs.